My name is Sylvia Toy. This is a video about a tape measure. I have never understood why anybody would want big breasts. My mother had big breasts, and her breasts, which were already pretty big when I was a little kid, started getting bigger when she hit middle age. And well, my sister is built like a fashion model, and I was actually built more like my father's sisters, but my mother told me, your breasts are probably going to get bigger as you get older. And that was absolutely horrifying for me. I was already secretly bulimic at that point, and I was about 19 or 20, and I'd been bulimic since I was 15. It didn't help to think that I might have big gazungas someday. When I finally became anorexic for about 6 months, I was an A cup, and I didn't have to wear a bra. And that was quite an accomplishment for me. I did therapy for 6 months, going about 3 times a week, and also did group, and I just stopped. But it took me 19 years. So I was bulimic until I was 34. When my weight finally normalized, I was okay with being a B cup. I used to give myself the pencil test a lot, which of course I could not pass. The pencil only when I was in A cup, and I weighed less than 100 pounds, and I'm 5'4.5", so you know, 100 pounds is not enough. I would give myself the pencil test and even cry. Even in my 30s, of course I did this when I was by myself, and I never admitted to it to anybody else. I think maybe it's natural to grow out of being so obsessed with your appearance, and I was busy. I was a paralegal during the day, so I had a responsible job that required a lot of attention. And then after work, for years, I took classes after work. And then I started building my portfolio, and eventually I was also doing theater after work. So I was too busy to worry about my boobs. Right around the time I turned 50. And I was still passing for like 35 with most people. So it's not like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, I'm saggy and baggy and draggy. I mean, it just wasn't like that, and I didn't have time to think about it. But my bras were very uncomfortable, and I hadn't gained weight. And I will not name the lingerie company. It doesn't really matter. Any lingerie department in a department store or a lingerie store, they walk around with tape measures around their neck. I hated buying bras. I never wanted to try one on, which is probably why it was too tight. And so I told this lady, I thought maybe I was trying to be pragmatic and realistic because I was 50. Even though I was passing for 35, and I said, I think my figures changed a little bit, and I think I need help getting the right bra. I'm like uncomfortable all the time. And so, you know, she's chewing gum, you know, and she's kind of tall, so she's wearing glasses, so she's looking down at me over her glasses. It was like I was in school, grade school, and I'd been bad, and so the school bra specialist takes me into a private little closet, shuts the door, has me take my top off, my bra off, and she said, why are you wearing a B cup? You're a C. And I didn't believe her. I thought she just wanted to sell me something expensive. And I said, are you sure? And she said, oh yeah, honey, you need a C cup. And I started to cry. I started to cry. The horrible thing that my mother had told me was going to happen had finally started to happen. This happened also right around the time that I had taken a new job with a personal injury law firm that had about 125 breast implant cases. Dow had refused to settle when all the other companies settled, so the cases were just sort of sitting there, and the paralegal who had handled the cases before I took that job had been gone for a couple of years. She had graduated from law school and had started a practice in Florida. So I had to familiarize myself with all of the cases. A class action that goes into the settlement phase has its own rules that are set up by the court, and there are certain procedures. I had to learn the procedures just like I had to learn the clients. And so I'm like calling these women one by one to get acquainted with them. And bear in mind that I had always been prejudiced against women who, once I found out they had breast implants, that just seemed like a weakness to me. Seriously, there's no other word for it. I thought it was a weakness that a woman would do that she couldn't, this is the bulimic, anorexic talking, that they couldn't accept their bodies. So of course that was really hypocritical of me. But I get to know these women. Most of these women, they were all different classes of society, and most of them were not breast cancer survivors. These women, most of them had gotten breast implants for cosmetic reasons. They wanted bigger boobs, and there were some actors. One had been a stripper. I actually got to meet her because she lived nearby, and she was still peroxiding her hair and wearing about an inch of mascara. She was quite a gal. Most of these women had been married multiple times. As I got to know these women, I was responsible for those cases for about 5.5 years. I began to respect them and respect what they had to face in society as women. I only wanted to be an artist. I was a paralegal because I got to write a lot, and I thought I wouldn't get bored. I just didn't have professional ambitions, except I wanted to achieve some success as an artist. So I really, my struggle, when you're an artist and you have a day job, your struggle is with yourself to go home and do the work. And I really hadn't struggled in society. That probably sounds strange for an African American woman to say that, but I had not struggled in society the way all these women, which they were all different races and nationalities, because some of them were naturalized or they were resident aliens. They had all had to struggle with the system in ways that I guess I had passed by because I had such maniacal goals about being an artist. I learned so much, and it began to not be so much about wanting bigger breasts, wanting to be more pleasing to men, wanting to be closer to some nebulous ideal that Americans have for women. They had all had to take charge of their lives after suffering, experiencing multiple disappointments in life just because they were women. And it was really obvious to me for the first time. I mean, we know in principle women get discriminated against. I mean, just like African Americans, just like immigrants, whether legal or not now, just like people of different religions. I mean, when I was a kid, people were prejudiced against Catholics. But I never just heard so many stories and read through the medical records or through the case files or through interviews that attorneys had with him. I had never seen so much history of personal struggles of women, and I don't know whether silicone breast implants actually caused illnesses. That was always a non-issue for me. The court decided that they should be compensated for difficulties that they had after getting the implants, and that was my job. That was what was fair, and I certainly don't judge people anymore because they have breast implants. I think for a lot of those women, getting the implants was their way, whatever their status was at that point in society. Getting the implants was a way for them, most of them, I think, of taking charge of their own lives. And that may be hard for me and probably a lot of other feminists to understand, but I saw it over and over and over again. I heard it over and over again in conversations, and I left that job with so much respect for all those women who taught me more about what it really means to be a woman.